including, I have to say, I talked to Bob Berry today, who is the son-in-law of Lenny's Plant, who is the victim. She's deceased now, and we've used her name before. He says he has spun this tale. He believes his own PR. He believes that he has not done this crime, but he says that his mother-in-law ID'd that man. She spent 8 hours in the apartment with him, looked him in the face, that by the time trial came, she was cogent, lucid, together.
Well, there are a lot of people that question how cogent she was at the time she identified him, and there also is evidence to the effect that she had impaired vision. So I understand his feeling of the horror of that crime, but that's something that I think Ben LaGuer feels also.
Would you recommend that he admit his guilt?
No, I wouldn't recommend that an innocent man say that he was guilty.
Even for freedom?
And I don't think that if he were guilty, I don't believe he would have asked for a DNA test. And I'd like to know, why was District Attorney Conti so opposed to having the DNA test? He fought that thing for 2 years. We had to pay lots of legal fees before we finally got a judge's order that required him to deliver the evidence kit, and finally ordered him to send it to California for that analysis.
I'm no defender of District Attorney Conti's office. I mean, he hasn't returned a phone call in 6 years, as far as a few this week about the Bish case. But, you know, he says they proved that case. They don't need to go any further with the DNA. Once they finally did agree to it, though, they say, look, this is it. It proved it. And this is Ben LaGuer once again creating this fantasy and roping in people like you, Dr. Silber, into his
I may be roped in. I may be a sucker. I'm certainly no bleeding heart. I've been asked to testify on behalf of dozens of criminals, and it's only in 2 cases where I thought the case was so compelling that I would do so. But when Ben LaGuer went to prison, he was a 20-year-old mixed-up kid on drugs. He doesn't show any sign of bitterness for having been in prison for 20 years. He used that time to educate himself, to become transformed as a person. And I think it's the job of the parole board to decide, does he still pose a threat to society on the assumption that he once did, or has he demonstrated that he could be released with safety? And if so, then they ought to release him, even if they think he's guilty.
The family, though, argues that he has not rehabilitated himself. He has not taken sex offender classes. He has not apologized to the family. He has not admitted his guilt, and that simply by being in prison and getting yourself a college education doesn't make you rehabilitated.
But you see, they got him in a catch-22. Either he confesses to a crime he didn't commit, and he apologizes for a crime he didn't commit, and he says he's sorry to the family, or he should never be paroled. Well, if that's the case, they've got him locked up forever.
Well, isn't there